So welcome to the 5th installment of Introducing, and today we'll be introducing a team I'm sure many of you have never even seen play, maybe never even heard of in Northeption, the Japanese champions who are a bit of a mystery team. You know, of course, most people expected Zeta Division would be back here at Masters Copenhagen, but they are not because Northeption managed to beat them 3-1 in the final. So let's take a look at this team and figure out how they managed to do that and who are they, right? Because they weren't present at Masters 1, of course, and so, you know, those of you outside of Japan or maybe outside of Asia, I'm sure, probably don't know that much about them, and honestly, neither do I, really, but I'll try my best. So the expectation for this team, I mean, I've put 3 question marks because I honestly don't know, and I don't think anyone really does know, right? I think that most people probably aren't expecting them to do what Zeta Division did and finish 3rd. But you never know, right? You really never know, because, you know, a lot of people have said that the Japanese scene has leveled up and whatnot. So I would put most likely it probably will be a group stage exit for them. However, we now do know the groups as well, and I will say that they got a bit of a favorable group overall. I think they got the easier of the 2 groups. I do think that one problem they might have, though, is I think that DRX is probably one of the worst matchups they could have got in their first game, because I think DRX will be a bit familiar with how they play. Maybe they've played against them, to be honest, in scrims and whatnot. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. So I think that that might not suit them because DRX are the kind of team that will, you know, when they know an opponent, I feel like DRX will probably be favored. And also Northeption play a pretty wacky style, as we'll see in some of the clips later on as well. It's quite fast-paced. It's not like crazy, like Paper Rex crazy, but it's towards Paper Rex. It's in that direction, and it's, yeah, slightly crazy, very fast-paced, and I've put you will like this team because they are slightly crazy and fast-paced. And I think if you are coming in as an unknown, you know, if you do weird stuff, that can work, right? That can potentially do some damage. As I say, I do think they got maybe a little unlucky in drawing DRX because it's likely that DRX are more used to that kind of thing and know how to play against that kind of weird, wacky strategy that Northeption might bring to them, but they still definitely could surprise. When it comes to the members of the team, you can see that they are a mix of South Korean and Japanese team. Unfortunately, I couldn't find pictures for some of the members and the coach there, but you have Jojo, who's the IGL, who plays the Initiators, as you can see. Zenfu, I think that is pronounced. I'll still probably need some clarification on that and make sure I'm getting that right. But they mostly play Initiators as well, and Chamber and Raze, and the Chamber, in particular in the final at certain moments, was really popping off. Meteor is kind of, you know, the real, like, kind of the cryo cells or the yay, right, of the team, the kind of, you know, top fragger of the team, as you can see by the stats on the right hand side. You know, they're the duelist, the chamber player, and whatnot. Doraili, I think it said, is literally play me on whatever, right? I'll play whatever you want. Initiators with Sova, Sentinels with Killjoy Sage, Smokes with Brim, Neon as well. Literally all 4 classes of agent. Don't care, I'll play it no matter what. And honestly, they look pretty good on either of those roles. Like any of those roles, you know, there's some really good Sova play, some really good Neon play, some really good Killjoy play in the final as well. So, like, it seems that, yeah, just a really flexible player who can do pretty much whatever you want. And then Blackwiz, as you can see, is kind of the main controller for the team, and Bale is the coach. Now, when it comes to the stats overall of the team, kind of interestingly to me is looking at the stats of the Japanese teams, it was a lot closer together than a lot of the other regions. Obviously, maybe I'm getting used to looking like the Paper Rex numbers and the Loud numbers, and so obviously they aren't anywhere near as high as those because they aren't dominating their region. But actually, a lot of the Japanese teams were quite close, honestly, in terms of, you know, the KDs of players and the ACS of players. It was all quite bunched up, and there wasn't too many, like, crazy players, with Meteor, as you can see, being one of them. And when we come to the clips, the first clip I'm going to show you is from Icebox, which is normally their permaban, and on this map they're playing a Jet KO comp with no Sage. And the first thing that comes to mind here when watching Northeption is that they play to their comp. Really, no matter what map, they do very well to play to the strengths of their comp, which honestly not every team does. And they do play some weird comps, as we'll see a bit later on as well. But you can see here they go pretty aggressive, they go pretty fast. That's kind of consistent amongst most of their games. But you see we get the Sova Dart, the Sova Drone, the KO Knife all starts to come in. They push Zeta off this A site, site nice and early, but they're going to take really deep control, right? They don't have a Sage, so they can't just wall up and plant and retreat. They have to play somewhat aggressive. So you see that is what they do. They take really deep control of the site, right? They push really, really far deep in. And it really suits this comp because it allows them to get the spike down safely, which is, you know, obviously without a Sage, something that they might struggle with. We start getting trades of kill. As soon as someone dies, the trade comes right in, as you can see there. And I really like what these two players do as well here. They're kind of in a 2v2 in this situation, right? There's two people here. There's two people from Zeta here as well, just behind the screens. They realize that, okay, let's retreat and just play as a 3, right? 3v2, let's play as a team. I really like that as well, right? So you start to see good team play and good coordination, and also a very good understanding of how to play to their comps and what they need to do in certain situations. We're going to get a trade here on Crow there from Northeption as well. We end up in this 2v1. They play together. We do have a small mistake where I think they aren't quite sure whether Sugar Zero is on the spike, but eventually the Chamber will manage to win the round, and they get this round 4. And now let's take a look at a burst exec from Fracture. Again, it's going to be pretty fast. It's going to be pretty chaotic. And they actually like playing both the Neon and the Rays together here on Fracture, going for the double duelist. But I really like what they do in this round overall. Their setup is quite interesting, where 4 players are just going to, you know, burst exec onto B. But they're going to have the Chamber with a TP here and a TP there to just hold basically A main with the push with an up. And they're going to get rewarded for that idea overall. And so let's take a look at what happens. So they're going to come in fast. As you see, we send the Neon Stun early towards this. The Breach is going to flash. We get the Stim Beacon going on. They're going to get the Boombot in there as well. Neon Wall is going to go up. Yeah, so you got the Brimble out here. You got the Neon Wall out there. You're going to flash this. You're going to raise, is going to satchel like this and come kind of like through the wall. Quite interesting. The Neon is actually going to die to Sugar Zero here, but they're going to manage to find what they need. The Chamber's going to get the first kill here and then be able to TP away before anyone else can trade it. It all just works pretty well. It's outside of the Neon dying first to Sugar Zero here, but you see that the Boombot is causing a lot of problems. The Chamber gets the kill there. The Raze is now coming crazy around and is actually like on top of the opposition Chamber. Gets that first kill there. And then Sugar Zero is in a bit of trouble, just gets spammed through the smoke on low HP there after the Boombot went off, and they just get very quick control of the site. Again, this is kind of a lot of what they like to do. They have quite a few crazy ideas for their Fracture attack, which is very good on the whole. Their Fracture attacking side is very good. This is part of the reason why, right? That burst executes are very good. They have very good ideas. And honestly, they do some crazy things as well. Like, they push spawn more than any other team I think I've ever seen. And now let's take a look at some of those crazy ideas that they have. Like in this round, 9-2 here up in round 12. You can see that their attacking side has gone very well for them. But this round isn't going to start off great because Laz is going to win the Chamber Duel here against Meteor, and they're going to end up in a 4v5. So you see, they end up in this bad situation, and then it's going to be made even worse because Zeta put down a Viper's Pit here in A main. And so, you know, 5v4, Viper's Pit down, you know, you're either going to have to now run into the Chamber up. Like, what do you do, right? A lot of teams would just be stuck in this situation and not know what to do. But they have some interesting, weird, crazy ideas of how to try and fix this round, right? They're going to take a risk. They're going to do something a bit weird. And that is, again, push spawn, which is something that they did, you know, fairly regularly, I would say, overall. So you'll start to see as they start to come towards this here, they get the Neon Wall up, they blast back in as well, and 2 players go towards spawn. They're actually going to send the stun down towards it as well from the breach, and in they start to go, right? And it's a really, really interesting idea on the whole. And so they get this kill onto the breach by pushing spawn. Actually, the Neon does die from this raise on the site, but now the trade comes in as well from Jojo, and now this Viper is in a very weird situation. They're also pinching this Viper from this way as well. So this Viper is in a very odd position all of a sudden, where everything felt so secure. Now everything is completely turned upside down, right? It's a 3v3 all of a sudden when, you know, it seemed impossible to get into this scenario, and Depp is going to get caught out by Jojo again there, and they end up in this situation where all of a sudden it's a 3v2. Now, Zenfu maybe gets a bit overeager here. He hears both the shots of both players. He tries to make a play in a 3v2, maybe a bit overeager, but I love this from Jojo using the Aftershock, and he jumps up in towards this left-hand side, in towards drop. Really, really great reposition. You can see see that both the Zeta players have absolutely no idea that anyone would be there. That you get the kill, and then Jojo as well. Just a masterful round by him. He gets the stun, and they manage to win the round. Really, really nice round, and this is the kind of thing that they can do, right? They can salvage really bad situations because sometimes they'll just have really crazy ideas, and anytime it works, they can pretty much get out of anything. And now let's come to Ascent and come to their attacking pistol round. And the first thing you need to know about their Ascent is that they play the double Sentinel, Killjoy plus Chamber. No Duelist and double Sentinel. Not even triple Initiator, double Sentinel. But still they manage to make their attack side work. And again, part of it comes from kind of their weird, crazy ideas that they have sometimes. So, start off pretty normally, right? They prowl the mid. They're going to get a knife in towards mid as well. They get a deep Astra Star there. And they get the Chamber up in towards mid. As you can see here, they destroy the Chamber trap there. And the rest of the team is actually going to push short whilst this Chamber is kind of pushed up here towards mid. So what they've just done, and this is going to be pretty insane, you don't normally see this, is they've prowled this and they're actually going to push this. Now this is not something that most teams will really ever do, but as a 4-stack on a pistol round, it is something that I think maybe more teams should try. You see that the Chamber gets super deep. They get here, they push back depth there, and they come through the window and they catch off Sugar Zero completely here and get that first kill. And now the rotates start to come in, but this Chamber as well has pushed super, super deep as well. So he's able to get a free kill there as well. Really, really nice on the whole. The flash comes in, catches them. They get that kill as well. They swing round, get another kill. It's all really, it's kind of weird. You know, teams don't normally do this, but it works, right? And they manage to make their attacking side work, even with this double Sentinel comp, because they have these kind of weird ideas. And Laz, whilst he does get that first kill there, he eventually is going to die to Meteor right there. So again, really, really nice from Northeption. They have these kind of weird ideas that they're willing to try, and often they work. But now let's come to some of the bad of Northeption. And really it comes from what was coming from the good as well, is sometimes they're kind of aggressive, interesting ideas sometimes can cost them. And I think sometimes they do them at the wrong times. For instance, here on round 15 on Icebox, where you can see the buy of Zeta is, well, nothing, right? It's a complete nothing buy for Zeta Division, and they have full rifles. This should be a pretty easy round win, but they're going to make it harder on themselves from their ideas, because they're going to get really aggressive, right? They're going to get really, really aggressive in this scenario against the save with both the Chamber and the Jet. And what happens is the Chamber is going to be forced to TP away, and then the Jet, instead of also getting away, is going to stay and get even more aggressive and then get punished for it, right? So you see the Chamber starts firing some bullets there, comes out, TP's away after not getting the kill, and now the Jet is in a bad position. But instead of trying to retreat and go with the Chamber, Meteor decides to stay instead, and is going to get punished for it here, as you can see, as he gets hit there by multiple players on top of that box, and he dies without getting a kill, and then gives over a gun as well. Now they are going to win this round, our Northeption, but they added in an element of risk that they really didn't need to, right? Like Zeta take that time here. Now they have a gun all of a sudden in Dep's hands. Like, it could have gone very badly, and you'll see even in this round, if a couple shots go the way of Zeta, then they probably do lose this round, Northeption. And this is the kind of thing that can happen to them, where, you know, they can get a bit overeager with maybe some of their ideas. You see Laz doesn't quite hit that shot there and dies first. But if he does hit that shot, you know, it's probably a very different round. And very easily Zeta can win this round overall. You see this start to come in. There's going to be another fight here as well, where if Depp wins this fight, that one there, again, it's probably a different round, right? Because Crow manages to get 2 after that. We end up in a 2v1. This could have easily been a 2v1 in the other side, you know, where they were unlikely to win. They do manage to win it out, but they made it more difficult on themselves than they really needed to. And now let's come to their map pool, their agents, and how they do on eco rounds. So you can see that their map pool is pretty good across the board. There are some interesting points to note here. You see the Ascent, they're like okay on both sides, right? And it's led to a decent win percentage. On Bind, their attack side, although a very low sample size, looks pretty good. On Breeze, this I think will be their home map. I think that this is probably most likely one of the choices they will make. You can see that they're pretty good across the board on Breeze. Fracture is a very interesting one for them, where they're extremely good on the attack, but their defense is really quite shaky and has some holes in it for sure. If they can get this defense to be, you know, a little bit stronger, then Fracture could also be a very dangerous map, because as you saw somewhat, like, some of their ideas on Fracture attacking side are very, very strong, and they use the Neon and Raze together very, very well. So Fracture could be a dangerous map as well, particularly if they are on the attacking side first. Haven, I'm going to be honest, against the game against Zeta, they looked like they didn't know how to play the map, and it wasn't great. You can see that their stats aren't amazing on that map. Icebox is normally their permaban, but they did manage to beat Zeta on it, and Split seems like just like a solid map for them overall. When it comes to their agent picks, there are some differences in here, particularly compared to some of the other teams that we've looked at before and what they like to do. Northeption are a bit different to most other teams that have qualified, that we've looked at so far at least, because you can see one big thing is that they prefer Astra over Omen, as you can see by these numbers, you know, preferring Astra plus 19% compared to the average across all VCT teams, and Omen, as you see, minus 18% compared to all VCT teams. So a big Astra fan, it seems, and Brim about normal. And then another big difference to a lot of other teams we've taken a look at so far is that they aren't in on Viper. Most of the teams we've looked at so far have been in on Viper and play Viper on maps like Bind or Split, you know, non-essential Viper maps, you might say, where you could not play Viper. A lot of the teams that have qualified so far have done so, but Northeption don't go with that. They tend to ban Icebox, so that is partly why this number is a bit lower as well, right? But they don't make up for that by picking on any other map other than Breeze and Icebox. Cypher they aren't really in on, and Chamber they play a lot of Chamber, like a lot of teams, of course. And Killjoy is another agent where, again, kind of a weird choice to have a very high pick rate, but they play Killjoy on Haven, and they also play that double Sentinel comp on Ascent as well. So that is where this kind of higher Killjoy pick rate is coming from. Sage, they play a normal amount. And then the Duelist as well. Another big difference to a lot of the other teams we've looked at is a lot of the other teams are picking a lot of Raze, right? They're playing Raze on a lot of maps. Whereas Northeption are not. They're not playing that much Raze and sticking with Jet and Neon a bit more than they are leaning into Raze, which again, kind of interesting, kind of different to a lot of the teams we've looked at so far. Initiator-wise, they're in on Breach, as you can see, and they're heavily in on Sky. Again, kind of weird and kind of different to a lot of other teams who we've seen some teams lean into Fade a bit more, some teams leaning Silver a bit more, some teams even leaning KO a bit more. But actually, you can see here that they are in on Breach and Sky a lot more than the other initiators. When it comes to their pistol and eco rounds, like most teams, I think on this list, right, they're doing pretty well, right? Their pistol rounds, 58%. That's a very good percent to have on pistols. And on their ecos and semi-ecos as well, they are a very good team, winning over 40% of those rounds is very, very strong indeed. And when they're against ecos and semi-ecos as well, they're also winning a very large percentage of those rounds. So on the whole, you know, they're doing pretty well in this instance. I mean, obviously we would expect that most teams who qualify for Copenhagen will be doing pretty well in these rounds, but even so, these are some pretty good numbers. And so that was introducing Northeption. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm sure that most of you probably don't know too much about this team, but really they are a fun team to watch, and I really can't wait to see what they can do at Copenhagen.